Today, super many trams. Probably the world's best city and funny people. Hello and welcome to Tram-Magic. This is a trip I've been dreaming about for a long time. And now we're finally in Melbourne. This time I'm joined by some wonderful guests. And together we're exploring the city, its trams and what makes it so special. Located in the southeast of Australia, Melbourne is the capital of the state of Victoria and home to around 5 million people, now rivaling Sydney as the country's largest city. Yet, despite its size, it feels surprisingly relaxed. Wide streets, plenty of green space and a laid-back atmosphere. It's easy to see why Melbourne is consistently ranked among the world's most livable cities. Architecturally, there's a fascinating contrast. Victorian-era buildings, reflecting the British heritage, stand right alongside modern skyscrapers and glass towers. It's a city that somehow balances history and modernity effortlessly. But there's something else that truly defines Melbourne. Because this is the tram capital of the world. With 250 kilometers of track, 24 routes, around 5,000 daily services and over 200 million passengers each year, Melbourne operates the largest tram network on the planet. Trams have been running here continuously since 1885, and today they're simply part of everyday life. Before we dive deeper, I want to introduce two people who helped me understand this system in a completely different way. Roberto D'Andrea and Kevin Tierney, both former conductors and drivers, longtime tram enthusiasts and local activists. The tradition of tram conductors in Melbourne continued until the late 1990s. Known as connies, they didn't just sell tickets. They assisted passengers, ensured safety and sometimes even provided a bit of entertainment along the way. Roberto is also the founder of Tram Yatra, a cultural tram festival linking Melbourne and Kolkata in India, which is actually where I first met him. Roberto and Kevin welcomed me incredibly warmly and shared not just facts, but stories and perspectives you simply won't find anywhere else.
What makes Melbourne Tramway so special is that we're the only true surviving tram system in the English-speaking world. We never got dismantled, we never got burnt trams, etc. So you're in the largest per kilometre length tram system in the world. Numbers of tram routes, very many different models of trams, and a history of activism to save our tramways. A society that loved trams, what we affectionately call the City of Gunzels. Melbourne is a city of tram enthusiasts.
Trams don't just keep the city moving. They've shaped the memories and identity of entire generations.
Ever since when I was young, I used to take the tram to school. We would listen for the tram by listening to the wire. When the wire was singing, the tram was coming with the trolley wheel at the back. But we just loved every aspect of the trams.
The heart of the network lies in the Central Business District, or CBD, also known simply as the City. It's built around the rectangular Hoddle grid, laid out back in 1837, and today it forms one of Australia's key financial centres. Here in the CBD, trams are not only frequent, they are free. The free tram zone covers the entire city centre, making it incredibly easy to get around. The main corridor begins at the University of Melbourne, the busiest tram stop in the city, and runs straight down Swanston Street. 8 tram routes operate here, often running almost bumper to bumper. It's quite a sight. This corridor forms the backbone of the entire network, passing some of Melbourne's most important landmarks along the way. Swanston Street is also home to one of the city's most iconic transport hubs. Flinders Street Station opened in 1910. A favorite meeting spot for locals is right beneath its famous row of clocks. Flinders Street is the central hub of the suburban rail network, operated by Metro Trains Melbourne. It's a classic radial system, stretching far into the suburbs with 16 lines covering more than 400 kilometers, the largest urban rail network in Australia. In the city centre, Metro Trains services run through the City Loop, a largely underground circular system beneath the CBD. In this building is Melbourne Central Station, which has been integrated into a large shopping complex. On the western edge of the CBD, Southern Cross Station serves as the main hub for regional and interstate trains, as well as the Skybus to the airport. But despite all this, in the city centre, trams still dominate. One of the most charming routes is the City Circle Line 35. It loops around the CBD and is operated using historic wooden-bodied W-Class-Trams.
They were a tram that I worked on in regular service. City Circle is special because it's the W-Class line that runs around the city, and also it gives you a commentary. It gives you a little bit about the city, a little about Melbourne as a famous tram city, and a little bit about the W-Class trams.
These 4-axle trams are perhaps the most iconic vehicles in Melbourne's entire network, representing the golden age of electric street transport in Australia. Built for durability and simplicity, they are heavy, loud, and full of character.
It's metal on metal wheel, and it's just wonderful. The old trams were fun to drive. Simple as that. You had a controller, you had a brake, sometimes a dead man's brake, you had a bell. What else do you need to drive a tram?
Let's take a closer look at the current fleet, starting with the high-floor trams. All of these were built by Comanche, short for Commonwealth Engineering, and share a broadly similar design. The Z-Class was introduced in 1975, while the early Z1 and Z2 series have now been retired. The improved Z3 version remains a common sight on Melbourne's streets. These trams are fitted with AEG control equipment and Duvac bogies from Germany, which might explain why they sound so familiar to me. Today, the Z-Class trams are among the oldest vehicles still in regular service, offering a glimpse into the transition from classic to modern tram design. The A-Class is essentially a refined version of the Z-Class. Also built by Comensch, it features a redesigned driver's cab with improved visibility and ergonomics. At just 15 meters long, however, these trams are even shorter than their predecessors, making them better suited to routes with lower passenger demand. Both the Z and A-Class are expected to be withdrawn in the near future, so it felt only right to give them a proper mention here. The B-Class marked a major step forward. These were Melbourne's first articulated trams, significantly increasing capacity. They were designed for busier routes and longer distances, and they were also the first to feature air conditioning. With around 130 vehicles, the B2 class remains the most common type in the fleet today. And personally, it's my favorite. I just love that angular 1980s design and that distinctive humming sound. With the C1 class, Melbourne entered the low-floor era. Built by Alstom in France, these three-section trams are based on the Citadis platform. They offer much improved accessibility and a more modern passenger experience. However, the series also faced criticism regarding the ergonomics of the driver's cab and its driving characteristics. Today, they are running on routes 48 and 109. Back in the early 2000s, the network was still split between two operators. While Yarra Trams operated the C1 class, the other company, M-Tram, ordered the D1 class. These trams belong to the Combino family and were built by Siemens in Germany. So I know them very well. The shorter, three-section version is often referred to as the Bambino. And in Germany, you can find them in the town of Nordhausen. The introduction of the Combinos wasn't without challenges. Early structural issues required modifications and temporarily took parts of the fleet out of service. Today, they run reliably, although they are sometimes criticized for offering relatively few seats. The longer D2 class followed in 2004. The classic five-section Combino design seen in many cities worldwide. These trams are used on routes 6 and 19. The C2 class is something quite unique within Melbourne's fleet. Originally built for Mulhouse in France, 5 surplus vehicles were brought to Melbourne, initially on loan, but later permanently retained. Painted bright yellow at the beginning, they quickly earned the nickname Bumblebee. They have a slightly different look compared to other trams in the city, and personally, I think they're quite charming. Plus, their air conditioning is excellent. With only 5 units, the Bumblebees are relatively rare, but when they do appear, it's always on Route 96. The E-Class represents the current flagship of Melbourne's tram fleet. Based on the Flexity Swift platform, these are the longest and most spacious trams in the network. Built by Bombardier Transportation, they also mark a return to local manufacturing.
The E-Class tram is made in Melbourne. They're a very good tram, flexible middle bogies, a very comfortable tram to ride. We're very blessed in Melbourne to have a lovely low-floor tram like the E-Class.
The next generation is already on its way. The G-Class, based on Alstom's Flexity 2 platform, has been ordered in large numbers, with around 100 vehicles expected to enter service in the coming years. In the final part, we head beyond the CBD to explore some of the most interesting lines and neighborhoods across the network. The main tram corridor continues south along St Kilda Road, passing the Arts Precinct, home to Melbourne's most important cultural institutions. A little further on stands the Shrine of Remembrance, one of the largest war memorials in Australia. At the northeastern edge of the CBD, you will find the Carlton Gardens, a perfect place to relax. Just behind the historic Royal Exhibition Building sits the modern Melbourne Museum. Very close by is Fitzroy, Melbourne's first suburb, now known for its culture, dining and nightlife. Its main artery is Brunswick Street, served by tram routes 11 and 86. Route 58 includes one of the most scenic sections of the network, running right through Royal Park.
I love Route 58. When I was a conductor and driver, South Melbourne Depot used to send peak hour trams through Royal Park. Beautiful tram line.
This is East Brighton, the terminus of Route 64. At first glance, the stop may not look particularly remarkable, but
This is the southernmost tram stop in the world! Yeah!
Route 75 is the longest line in the network, with 80 stops over 23 kilometers, running from Docklands via Flinders Street all the way to Vermont South. Route 82 begins in the suburb of Footscray and is one of only two lines that do not serve the city centre. It's a remnant of what was once a separate tram network.
The Footscray Moonee Ponds tram line was the last tram line that was saved in Melbourne. It was the last tram line that a government wanted to close. It met a lot of resistance from the communities in Footscray, and especially the campaign was run by the tram workers from the Essendon tram depot.
One of the most interesting sections of Route 82 runs through a corridor cutting across a former industrial area. Melbourne's most popular line is Route 96. It runs along the edge of Fitzroy via Nicholson Street and passes Parliament House. In the CBD, it continues through the pedestrianised Burke Street before reaching this section that makes it one of the fastest tram routes in the city.
Now that was a train line till 1987. Now it's have trams running. Still the rail stations are there, the old stations are there, but you still get a few wonderful sound effects from the past resonating.
Following the former railway alignment, we arrive in the beachside suburb of St Kilda, Along the esplanade lies Luna Park, Melbourne, a historic amusement park, with trams watched over by the iconic Mr. Moon. The terminus is located on Auckland Street, one of Melbourne's liveliest streets, with the beach just around the corner. Another fast tram corridor can be found on Route 109, running along the former Port Melbourne railway line, also converted to tram operation in 1987. At the end of the line, the historic station building has been preserved. And that concludes our video.
This will be the last stop. Thank you for travelling with Yarra Trams.
Now, as the trams return to the depot after a long day, what do you think of the world's largest tram network? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. In the meantime, we'll make sure to stay hydrated. Cheers!